guys, my name is Jacqueline Akwe, and of course, I am a rich kid, yes, from the GMG Plus fame. And you know what I do every Friday night? Well, I watch KSM. It's the best show on TV.
Okay, folks, we'll be returning to Randy Abbey very, very soon. But we have to check this out, man. This is the response to COVID by some churches in the U.S., and their signs are mostly mind-boggling, man. Take a look at this. Well, this is coming from the Calvary Nazarene Church. And look at the sign. It says, Jesus can wash away your sin, but you still have to wash your hands. I love it. Folks, you have to see one more of these signs, man. This one actually comes from the Southeast Baptist Church. Take a look at their sign. It says, wash your hands and say your prayers, because Jesus and James are everywhere. Like everywhere you go, you find Jesus and James. So wash your hands and pray. We are coming right back with Randy Abbey.
The KSM Show.
Hello folks, my name is Ejewa, and if you're not watching the KSM Show, well, I don't know what show you're watching, because it's the best show ever on the continent of Africa. I said it and beyond. So, from the Rich Kid family, my name is Ejewa. Keep watching the KSM Show.
We're back, and I have in the house the great Dr. Randy Abbey, man. Jack of all trades and master of almost all of them. Randy, you've been in media.
Yeah.
You know, you've won an award for your media in media development. You've been in sports. And I'm telling you, man, if anybody who conquers sports and media is in there, man. That's right in the heart of where Ghana lives, man. Before we go on, this playing around, let's talk about Randy, the only sports minister. Have you that people see that coming?
Oh yeah,
that you're going to take over the sports ministry?
I mean, people say all those things. Oh, GFA, this sports minister, that information, this. I mean, yes. You have all manner of people based on what is being discussed, what they see about you, and all that. I mean, you hear that all people talk about president, they talk about this, they talk about that, all manner of things. This is how I take it. That you see, what it really means is that there are people who see some positives about what you're doing. There are people who believe that given the opportunity, you can do much more. That should encourage you, you know, to do a lot more. I mean, it should also give you a sense of humility, you know, that look, there are a lot of people out there who are looking up to you.
Who have a lot of expectations.
Yes, yeah. And who believe that you can effect some change, or you can help in the development of this society. And so it's not just about you. You have a lot of people out there who believe that you could be part of the leadership to effect certain changes in some facets of their lives.
But do you see yourself as such? I know you're talking about how that humbles you and lets you know what people think of you. But you personally, do you feel it?
You know, yes. I mean, look, on a daily basis, and I'm sure that you've experienced it over the decades. You have people you do not know who call you, who have issues bothering them on their hearts, on their minds, and they think that you're the one person they need to speak to. They have issues that they want known out there. They have views on issues. They call you and think that you are a medium through which they can be heard, or you can articulate those issues better. There are people who call you, and sometimes even in criticizing or critiquing your work, say that they do so because of the expectations they have of you. I mean, obviously, in your quiet time when you sit down, you'd realize that, look, there is this huge responsibility on you. And although it is about you, KSM, or about you, Randy Abbey, at the end of it, it is about the expectation of hundreds and thousands of people. You've decided to play in the public space. You are impacting on lives. You know, so it's not just about you. It's not about the fame. It's not about what you make out of what you do. But it's about the confidence and the expectation that people have that with the role that you've decided to take up in society and your public life, they expect that it will lead to a certain impact on society and themselves. You cannot lose sight of that fact. And that must then sort of influence how you deal with the present and how you decide to forecast and think about the future. It must be. Unless you're not somebody who has a conscience, unless you're not somebody who has a quiet time, unless you're not somebody who's reflective. If you are, you obviously will realize that with what you've decided to do and with where you are placed now by the special grace of God, you are in a leadership position. You don't need to have honorable attached to your title. Your influence perhaps is far bigger than people who are ministers or members of parliament or people who carry titles or are public offices. You understand what I'm saying? Your level of influence is that high, and the expectation perhaps is even higher than a full-time politician. And so you need to appreciate the space that you find yourself in. And once you have that appreciation, you would know that there are serious expectations of not just your present, but your future. And that must guide everything that you do.
How directly is that guiding you? Are you like consciously aware of things you say or do because you know that there's the whole body of people watching you, there's a lot of expectation on you? Is that a form of pressure or guidance to you in what you do?
Well, I mean, early days, I would have referred to it as pressure. Today, I refer to it as an appreciation of the environment. So you scan the environment you're operating in. You know the environment. You understand the environment. And therefore, when you're operating within that environment, you know what you're doing. You know what to expect. You know the raw nerves that you're touching. You know the impacts that you're making. You know the fallouts of what you're doing. You know what to expect, whether positive or negative. You know? And so it then gets to that point where it is no longer an issue of pressure, but it's an issue of understanding, having scanned the environment, understanding the environment, and knowing the effect of what you're doing. That for me is the most important thing. Because if you've scanned your environment and you know your environment, you're not surprised by a lot of things. You know, and you also have a certain expectation about your actions. You get what
I get what you're saying. Yeah. So cutting through all of that, and I hear you perfectly, but also from the position where you are now and looking at things as how they are now, if I'm supposed to consult you for some advice, let's say the Ministry of Sports, what are the immediate things you think need to be done, changed, or if they are doing it, enforced?
Well, I think that, you know, as a country and as a society, there are a lot of things that we should have done. You know, we should have done that we have not done. What that therefore means is that we have a lot of things that need to be done. All cannot be done at a go.
What are some of the things?
How do we, for example, if you're talking about the area of sports, the issue of the necessary investments that we should have made in sports development, either in infrastructure, in training and in development and all those things. We have not invested in the right places over the years. And so I'm sure that when you were growing up, I mean, the level of sports development in this country, the availability of infrastructure and all that, the kind of motivation that people had, you know, where the opportunities, I mean, are not like they are today. What it means is that we perhaps did not plan. And so I've always used this expression that in this country, development precedes planning. In this country, development precedes planning. In other jurisdictions where we're proud of and we always refer to, planning precedes development. And that's the problem we have. So planning is always a step behind development. You know, so if you even want to bring it into the space of even spatial planning, even development of towns and cities in this country, you realize that is the person who moves in and who goes to start developing something before we think of how to bring water. So most of the time, the person who's trying to bring water and bring electricity and try and bring telecom and try to do some makeshift road or drainage and all that. In other jurisdictions, the planning and the execution of the plan precedes the development.
Before you even move,
yes,
everything is
yes,
set up. Yeah.
Yes, and it appears that underpins every facet of our society. So in every other thing that we do, you'd realize that we'll say that, oh, we should have been doing this earlier. We should have shifted into this earlier. So in almost every sector, it appears that we lag behind. And because of that, there's a lot of pressure of what must be done. There's a lot of pressure on what must be done today. And so you now need to have a scale of priority. You need to prioritize what you need to do because you cannot do everything at the same time. And in doing so, you need to ensure that you do what is right and what is important first, you know, and prioritizing what you need to do because you don't have all the resources at this point in time. And so if you come back to the area of sports, I mean, we need to focus on infrastructure. We need to focus on investments in training and development. That is extremely important because you see, like the IT people say, garbage in, garbage out. If you do not invest in the development from the very early stages, how do you expect to have quality, you know, in the latter stages? If you have not invested, it's like you said, if you've not sown, you can't expect to reap.
Yeah. So still sticking on our sports sector, what do you think is the cause of this? Are the people who manage it not aware of certain crucial steps that need to be taken, or they are aware but they don't have the funds, or they just don't care? What's accounting for this? Because you said it's not only in sports, in many areas.
You know, I think that if you look at, just take a look at the manifestos of political parties, all political parties in this country, just for the third and fourth republics, you would realize that if all of them had gone by what they said they were going to do, I mean, this country would be a far better, you know, place. You know, this is a country where we applaud budgetary allocations. We do not track actual disbursements. And so from where we sit, a budget is ready in November. And we hear that X amount is being allocated to the arts, and we applaud. And we do a comparative analysis of what the other government allocated to that industry and what this government has allocated. And then we give out praises or criticism, you know, for that. And then it even turns out that even in the fourth quarter, 5% of what was allocated in the budget has not even been released. You know, and people do not even track and say that, oh, in 2007, you said you were going to give X amount to this sector. You've come to tell us about what you're going to do in 2008. In 2007, how much of what you said you do for that sector did you do? And why were you not able to do that? You get me? So all the time we get excited about what the allocations, what is going to be,
but nobody follows about the tracking, the implementation.
Yes, the promises. So it comes back to the issue of manifestos. People make all manner of promises. What he also tells you is that in pursuit of power, people know what must be done. Why they do not do what they know must be done and they promise that they will do is the $1 million question.
It looks like the objective is just to, I know how to get the power.
Yeah.
And I'll do what I need to do to get the power.
Yeah.
But once you get the power, it's like, okay, I've got the power.
Yeah. You see, and so you sometimes check parties when they do not have power, very analytical,
Yeah, that's
saying all the right
Yeah.
things, striking all the right chords and notes and all that.
Yeah.
And then
Until they get the power.
yes, and then when they get the power, it becomes a different, it becomes a different kind of thing,
And people have said that the best parties are the ones in opposition. Because when you are there, you see the picture, you know all the analysis and what should be done until you get there.
Okay.
But what causes that?
You know how I refer to it. I say that, you see, when you don't have enough, or you don't have, you think and strategize a lot. When you don't have enough, strategy goes ahead of money. When you have, money is ahead of strategy. Yes.
Yeah.
When you have the attitude is money answers all things.
Yeah. So it's only when you don't
have,
you're forced to strategize.
Yeah, when you don't have, man must think.
So how do you get off this cycle?
When they tell you that you're too sick and fool.
You're too sick and
because you
are coming to advise me. What do you have? That's right. What frustrates you about our politics? What inspires you about politics? Either frustrate or inspire?
What frustrates me is, and I say that a lot. So I'm coming to discuss a subject that I say that for those of you who have watched this program for a long time, you know that I've been speaking about this issue over and over and over again. And sometimes when I'm on with the pioneers of a program like Kokubako, Kwesi Pratt and others, I say that, you see, we've talked about this for the last 18 years, but we can't talk about it again. That's quite frustrating. But to the extent that you have not stopped, you can't stop discussing it, because you only stop discussing it if a solution has been found. What inspires me is that by the grace of God, we have life. By the grace of God, there's a tomorrow. By the grace of God, there's a promise that there can be an opportunity to do things better. And so that's where the inspiration comes from.
Let me take it from there, because from the grace of God, we know that there's an opportunity that we can do things better. And I take my mind back to maybe the last 40 years, and we haven't done things better. We just hope on the grace, and we dwell on the grace that things will improve, but things are actually not improving.
Just look at what COVID-19 has done. How it's exposed us in all facets of our economy and our lives. In all facets. Until COVID-19, we're using all manner of superlatives, to talk about how well we've done and all that. All of a sudden, this thing, which is not even 3 months old in Ghana, and globally not even 4 months old yet, is telling us that indeed we haven't done anything
at all.
It has actually brought to the fore the weaknesses. I mean, the fact that whatever we have, the superstructure, is on a very weak foundation. It's brought that to the fore in almost every sector. Take every sector,
everything.
Look at the hustle and the spectacle with when we decided that we even need to take care of people we say are underprivileged or homeless in just 2 cities. In just 2 cities in this country. Yes, our 2 major cities. And we're just dealing with 400,000. And we didn't, the issue of even having data, the issue of even how to properly share food, you know, that brought into sharp focus the welfare nature of this country. It brought a lot of things into focus. Just this 3-week lockdown. I mean, the mere fact that one of the major considerations for even lifting this lockdown was that, look, you're not careful, you're trying to save people from spreading a disease. People might end up dying out of hunger.
Yeah.
Other jurisdictions have kept people for 3 months and for 4 months and others. And I'm talking about jurisdictions in Africa, not even Europe. There are other African countries. South Africa is doing it. Rwanda is doing it. Kenya is doing it. Nigeria is doing it. You know, so COVID-19, which has not been around for even more than 3 months in Ghana, is exposed a lot of the fundamental weaknesses in our country. And I just hope and pray that we're not just looking for the end of COVID-19 for us to go back to our old ways of doing things.
Yeah.
Because you see, the fear, and I do not pray that COVID-19 lingers on beyond another day. But the truth of the matter is that I also have this sense that, oh, this too shall pass. This too shall pass. And you sometimes get a sense that we can't wait for it to pass, so that we go back
to what we were before.
Wow. So whilst others are talking about the new normal, and in Ghana, when something is in vogue, we also say some. So the new normal, we're also talking about the new normal. But how are we averting our minds to what the new normal is? And which steps are we taking to ensure that we will be ready for the new normal, or we are really adapting to the new normal?
Wow.
Are we rather, in talking about this too shall pass, not waiting for it to pass so that we get back to our comfort zones?
Yeah.
Because there are many things that have happened which is giving us the opportunity to do things differently, and we've let those opportunities slip by. What is the encouragement that this too
shall pass?
Shall pass.
Yeah. And stick around, folks. This is getting so exciting. This is about time to wrap this show up. But I told you this man, I can't do him in one show. So if you can bear with us, I'm going to thank him and sign off. But next week, join us, and then we'll have the concluding part of our chat with Mr. Randy Abbey. Randy, stick around, man. We have to bring this to a full conclusion. And the good question he asks is that this too shall pass, and after that, what? Going back to our old days or creating a whole new normal? One more time for Randy Abbey. All right. So let's say a big thank you to all those who are proudly associated with us. I'm talking about Cactus Creek, and I'm talking about Irata Motors. We'll come back your way next week with the conclusion of our fabulous chat with Randy Abbey. Next week, we'll see